Disrespect is never loud at first. It whispers, a smirk, a tone, a subtle cut. Ignore it once, and you've already lost. Most people laugh it off. They brush it aside, thinking it will go away. But Machiavelli teaches us the opposite. He understood something that weak people never learn. Respect is not earned. Respect is enforced. You see, when someone disrespects you, they're not just attacking your dignity. They're testing your power. They're checking if you're worth their fear. And every time you let it slide, you're telling them the answer is no. I've studied power dynamics for years, and I can tell you this: the people who get walked all over aren't necessarily weaker. They just don't understand the game being played. They think being nice means accepting garbage treatment. They think turning the other cheek makes them noble. In a world where everyone is competing for resources, attention and respect, being overly nice all the time can work against you. It marks you as prey. It tells predators that you're safe to attack because you won't fight back. Today we're diving deep into the darkest, most effective way to handle disrespect. This isn't about losing your temper or throwing tantrums. This is about cold, calculated dominance. This is about becoming someone who others think twice before crossing. I'm going to show you 5 psychological tactics that will transform how people treat you. These aren't feel-good strategies that sound nice on paper. These are tested methods that actually work in the real world. By the end of this video, you'll understand why silence can be more powerful than words, why consistency builds fear, and why the most quietly powerful people are those who need nothing from anyone. You'll learn how to read disrespect as intelligence about people's true character and how to use that information to your advantage. This isn't about becoming a monster. It's about becoming someone who commands natural respect through their mere presence, someone who doesn't have to demand respect because they already have it. Now I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. Disrespect sharpens my awareness. But before we start, let me ask you something. How many times have you replayed a disrespectful encounter in your head, thinking of all the things you should have said? How many times have you felt that burning frustration of being treated poorly and not knowing how to respond? That ends today. Today you learn the rules of a game that most people don't even know they're playing, the hidden nature of disrespect. Let's start with what most people get completely wrong about disrespect. They think it comes as a punch to the face. Obvious, direct, impossible to miss. But that's not how smart people disrespect you. That's not how the game is really played. Real disrespect is a snake. It slithers in quietly, disguised as harmless jokes, friendly teasing, or innocent mistakes. It's the co-worker who always interrupts you in meetings, who makes cutting remarks and then says, "Just kidding." It's the family member who dismisses your opinions with a wave of their hand. Here's how it typically unfolds. First, they test the waters with light teasing. Maybe they make a joke about your appearance, your choices, or your abilities. They're watching your reaction carefully. If you laugh along or brush it off, they've learned something important about you. You're safe to attack. Next, the jokes become a little meaner, a little more personal. The dismissive body language becomes more obvious. They start interrupting you more frequently. They begin excluding you from conversations or decisions. Each step is small enough that confronting it seems petty, but together they form a pattern of systematic disrespect. If you continue to tolerate this behavior, thinking you're being the bigger person, something terrible happens. You train them to see you as someone who accepts poor treatment. You become their emotional punching bag, the person they can safely dump their frustrations on without consequences. I've seen this pattern destroy relationships, careers, and self-esteem. Good people who thought kindness would win the day found themselves surrounded by users, manipulators, and bullies who saw their kindness as weakness. Machiavelli understood this dynamic perfectly. He lived in a world where showing weakness could literally destroy you. He knew that people are constantly testing each other, looking for vulnerabilities they can exploit. He wrote extensively about how power works in practice, not in theory. Here's the truth that weak people can't handle. Silence at the wrong time is approval. When you say nothing in response to disrespect, you're not being mature, you're being complicit. When you laugh along with jokes at your expense, you're not being a good sport, you're giving permission for more of the same. When you let something slide just this once, you're not being understanding. You're teaching them that your boundaries are suggestions, not rules. You're showing them that you don't value yourself enough to defend your own dignity. This is why some people spend their entire lives being stepped on, while others command respect wherever they go. It's not about luck, looks, or natural charisma. It's about understanding how human psychology actually works and responding accordingly. The people who get respect understand that every interaction is a negotiation. Every conversation contains subtle power dynamics. Every relationship has an unspoken hierarchy, and that hierarchy gets established through thousands of small moments where respect is either given or taken. Most people are playing checkers while a few are playing chess. The checkers players react emotionally to each move. The chess players are thinking several moves ahead, building patterns that serve their long-term interests. Today, you learn to play chess. Number 1, silence as a strategy. The first tool in your kit isn't words, it's silence, but not weak silence, strategic silence. There's a massive difference, and understanding the difference will change everything. Weak silence is when you don't respond because you're afraid, hurt, or don't know what to say. This type of silence makes you look like a victim. People can sense your emotional turmoil, and it encourages them to push further. Strategic silence is completely different. It's when you choose not to respond as a calculated decision. You're not hurt or confused. You're evaluating. You're making them wait while you decide if they're worth your energy. How this works in practice: someone makes a disrespectful comment to you. Instead of immediately defending yourself, explaining your position, or firing back, you simply stop talking. You look at them directly. You let the silence stretch until it becomes uncomfortable. During that pause, something fascinating happens in their brain. First, they realize their words are hanging in the air with no response. The conversation has stopped, and it's their fault. Second, they start to question whether they crossed a line. Third, they begin to fill that empty space with their own anxiety and guilt. Most people are terrified of silence. They feel compelled to fill it with words, explanations, or nervous laughter. But when you're comfortable with silence, when you can sit in it without flinching, you have power over people who can't handle it. Machiavelli once said, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved." This silence creates a type of fear, not the fear of physical harm, but the fear of unpredictability. They can't read you, they can't predict how you'll respond, and unpredictable people are dangerous people, because you never know what they might do. Let me give you a real example. You're in a group conversation, and someone makes a joke at your expense. Everyone laughs. The normal response would be to laugh along, make a joke back, or defend yourself. Instead, you do nothing. You just look at the person who made the joke with a completely neutral expression. The laughter dies down, the silence grows, people start to feel uncomfortable. The joke maker realizes their comment didn't land the way they expected. They might even apologize or try to explain what they meant. Without saying a word, you've shifted the entire dynamic of the room. This works because you've disrupted the expected pattern. They expected you to play along with their disrespect. Instead, you gave them nothing to work with. You became a mirror that reflected their own behavior back at them, forcing them to confront what they just did. The beauty of this approach is that you maintain complete control. You're not reactive, you're not emotional, you're just present, and that presence becomes intimidating because they can't manipulate or predict you. Remember, silence is not absence. Silence is control. It's the pause before the storm. It's the loaded question that demands an answer. And in a world full of people who can't stop talking, the person who knows when to stay quiet holds all the power. But here's the key. Your silence must come from a place of strength, not weakness. You're not staying quiet because you're hurt or don't know what to say. You're staying quiet because you're choosing to withhold your response until you decide they deserve one. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My silence speaks volumes. Practice this in small situations first. When someone makes a thoughtless comment, just pause. Look at them. Let them feel the weight of their own words. You'll be amazed at how quickly people start watching what they say around you. Number 2, relentless consistency. Here's where most people completely destroy their own power. They set a boundary once and think that's enough. They handle disrespect well one time and expect people to remember forever. But boundaries mean nothing if they collapse the first time they're seriously tested. Human beings are like water. They flow toward the path of least resistance. If your boundaries have holes in them, people will find those holes and exploit them. If your standards are negotiable, people will negotiate them down to nothing. Let me give you some examples of what consistency looks like in practice. Someone interrupts you in a meeting. Every single time this happens, you stop talking, look at them, and wait for them to finish before you continue. You don't sometimes ignore it, and sometimes call it out. You always respond the same way. Someone makes jokes at your expense. Every single time, you don't laugh, you don't smile, you don't play along. Your face remains neutral, and you continue the conversation as if they didn't speak. No exceptions. This is why consistency is everything. Not just consistency in big moments, but consistency in every single interaction. Every time someone disrespects you, your response must be predictable, cold, calculated, unwavering. Think about the people in your life who command the most respect. I guarantee you they're consistent in how they handle poor treatment. They don't let things slide sometimes and get upset other times. They have clear standards, and they enforce those standards every single time. Now think about the people who get walked all over. They're inconsistent. They let small disrespect slide, hoping to avoid conflict. They make exceptions for people they like. They have good days and bad days when it comes to standing up for themselves. This inconsistency trains people to keep testing their limits. It's like playing a slot machine. Sometimes you get a reaction, sometimes you don't. The uncertainty actually encourages more attempts because people want to see if this time will be different. Machiavelli understood this principle deeply. He knew that power is repetition. Each time you enforce your standards consistently, your reputation grows stronger. Each time you make an exception, your power weakens. What happens when you become relentlessly consistent in handling disrespect? People start to predict your reactions. They know that certain behaviors will have certain consequences. This predictability creates caution, and caution creates respect. Let me give you some examples of what consistency looks like in practice. Someone interrupts you in a meeting. Every single time this happens, you stop talking, look at them and wait for them to finish before you continue. You don't sometimes ignore it and sometimes call it out. You always respond the same way. Someone makes jokes at your expense. Every single time you don't laugh, you don't smile, you don't play along. Your face remains neutral and you continue the conversation as if they didn't speak. No exceptions. Someone tries to dump their emotional problems on you when you're busy. Every single time you say something like, "I can see you're upset, but I can't talk right now." You don't sometimes listen out of guilt and sometimes set boundaries. Machiavelli once said, "Men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate necessities that a deceiver will never lack victims for his deceptions." The immediate necessity here is avoiding your consistent consequences. When people know that disrespecting you will always result in the same cold response, they start policing their own behavior around you. They learn that you're not someone who makes exceptions. But here's the part most people struggle with. Your consistency can't just apply to big violations. It has to cover the smallest infractions too. The slight eye roll when you're speaking, the dismissive tone when they respond to you, the subtle body language that communicates contempt. All of it gets the same treatment. All of it receives the same measured, consistent response. This might seem harsh to people who are used to letting things slide, but it's actually more merciful than the alternative. When people know exactly where they stand with you, they can adjust their behavior accordingly. They don't have to guess whether today is a day when you'll tolerate disrespect. They know you never will, so they don't try. It's the inconsistent people who cause the most confusion and drama in relationships. Nobody knows what to expect from them. Sometimes they're doormats, sometimes they explode. This unpredictability makes everyone around them walk on eggshells. But when you're consistently firm about your standards, people relax around you. They know the rules, they know what's acceptable and what isn't. This clarity actually makes relationships easier, not harder. Now I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. My standards never bend. Start small with this. Pick one type of disrespectful behavior that you currently tolerate sometimes. Maybe it's interrupting. Maybe it's dismissive comments. Maybe it's being kept waiting. From now on, respond to that behavior the exact same way every single time it happens. Watch how quickly people's behavior around you starts to change when they realize your boundaries aren't negotiable. Number 3, clear and effective response. Now we get to the part that separates the truly powerful from everyone else. When someone disrespects you, your response cannot be proportionate to their action. It must be disproportionate. Why this works? An ordinary response is forgettable. If someone makes a cutting remark and you make one back, it's just another argument. If someone dismisses you and you argue with them, it's just another disagreement. These interactions blend together in people's minds. But if someone makes a cutting remark and you respond with complete emotional withdrawal, that's unforgettable. If someone dismisses you and you create distance and limit contact with them, that leaves a permanent impression. This doesn't mean losing control or throwing tantrums. Quite the opposite. It means your response should be calculated to create lasting impact. The goal is to make them remember the consequences of crossing you every time they consider doing it again. Let me give you some concrete examples. Someone makes a joke at your expense in front of others. Instead of laughing along or making a joke back, you look at them with complete seriousness and say, "That wasn't funny." Then you continue the conversation as if they no longer exist. Or better yet, you don't say anything at all.